Will President-elect Javier Milei have to eat his own words after having mentioned during the campaign that he was not going to do business with China? How have previous Argentine governments behaved in commercial and diplomatic relations with China? Is China the most important trading partner for Argentina at the moment? What have been China's first reactions to the new Argentine government? Let's find out by answering each of these questions throughout the video. China begins to react with the suspension of the $6.5 billion swap reinforcement to Argentina. It seems that the good economic and diplomatic relationship that China maintained with the previous Argentine government is beginning to crumble in a few weeks since the new far-right president-elect Javier Milei took office. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning considered it a big mistake if Argentina decides to break relations with Beijing. The spokesperson asserted that no country can separate diplomatic relations from the development of economic and commercial cooperation. Mao recalled in a press conference that China is Argentina's second trading partner and the first export market for its agricultural products. Likewise, numerous Chinese companies have their sights set on the South American country, especially in the agricultural sector and natural resources, such as lithium, a fundamental material for the Chinese electric car industry, of which Argentina is the fourth largest producer in the world. Argentina today does not have many options that do not involve China. That's an undeniable reality. With the United States and Western banks at risk of default, Europe is increasingly distant from the region. Russia, which could take advantage of this vacuum, faces its own crises due to the war in Ukraine, says Tullio Cariello, Director of Content and Research at the CEBC. Let's carry out an analysis regarding the diplomatic and commercial situation between Milei's Argentina and Xi Jinping's China. In February 2022, the bilateral relationship between China and Argentina marked 50 years. In recent decades, the link between both countries has been strengthened particularly by the increase in trade and the arrival of Chinese capital investments in Argentina. During the first years of Cristina Kirchner's presidency, Argentina began to have a trade deficit with China. These tensions led to the partial suspension of Chinese purchases of beans and soybean oil during 2010 and 2011. Despite the tension in trade, in the second term, Chinese investments in infrastructure works for transportation and energy generation, with dams, nuclear power plants, trains, railways, etc., began to grow substantially. The signing of agreements reached new areas such as communication infrastructure, environmental protection, currency exchanges, or swaps, collaboration in Chinese space exploration programs, or even medical sciences. In the years of international tension of the Trump administration in the United States, the Argentine government maintained actions that were understood as hostile to the Asian country. One of them was the conflict that occurred in February 2016, when a Chinese fishing vessel that was within the limits of the exclusive maritime zone sank. The unprecedented hostility towards the People's Republic of China was quickly modified with the arrival of Alberto Fernandez to the presidency. Argentina displaced Brazil as the main destination for Chinese investments in Latin America in 2022. In technology and energy transition investments, the amount allocated by China to Argentina was $1.34 billion, compared to the $1.3 billion received by Brazil. Furthermore, since 2022, Argentina has been part of the so-called New Silk Road, a Chinese development project, and was the first major economy in Latin America to join this initiative. Some data that has been provided speaks of a trade volume of around $3 billion, and the accumulated investment could reach $50 billion. More recently, following Chinese support, Argentina was announced as one of 6 countries that will join the BRICS in 2024, a group made up of Brazil, Russia, China, India, and South Africa. China has been Argentina's main financial ally in recent times, and President Alberto Fernandez is grateful to the Chinese government. Now let's talk about the new Argentine government. If you're liking this video, I invite you to like it and subscribe to this channel. During one of his interviews at that time, presidential candidate Javier Milei mentioned something that caught a lot of attention. His words were, "In fact, not only am I not going to do business with China, I'm not going to do business with any communists. We want to be the moral lighthouse of the continent," referring to what its trade policy with China would be like. His position as a far-right libertarian economist has led him to express on several occasions that he's a defender of freedom, peace, and democracy. Therefore, he does not negotiate with Putin, Xi Jinping, or even Lula da Silva, the current president of Brazil, referring to them as people with communist ideology. The Milei government angers China by crossing a red line. And what is China's red line? That's right, Taiwan. Because for most states in the world, there's only one China with its capital in Beijing. Taiwan is another territory of the Asian giant. Argentina was also a strategic partner on the Taiwan issue because China, in turn, defended Argentine sovereignty over the Malvinas. Until Javier Milei took office, he appointed Diana Mondino as chancellor, and from there, the problems began. In recent weeks, it was reported, according to sources from the Argentine Ministry of Foreign Affairs, that Diana Mondino had met with the representative of Taiwan in Argentina, Miao Heng-se. What need does Argentina have to join the select club of countries that recognize Taiwan? A select club such as Haiti, Paraguay, Belize, Guatemala, Nauru, and Tuvalu, among others, that have zero relations with the second largest economy in the world due to maintaining ties with Taiwan. Milei, who during his presidential campaign dedicated himself to criticizing China for being a communist country with an authoritarian regime. With those being his words, has Milei thought about who he's going to sell his soybeans and beef to if China were to look for other trading partners? China was Argentina's second trading partner, behind Brazil, a country with which they already spoiled quite a few relations before assuming power. Trade with China represented 14% of Argentina's total trade. In addition to that, during the presidency of Alberto Fernandez, he negotiated with China what is known as swap, a loan in yuan for a period of 3 years to pay part of his debt with the IMF and imports from China. That is, a few million in foreign currency that would not hurt the Argentine central bank given the circumstances. At the end of December of last year, it was reported that China stopped the $6.5 billion swap that it had agreed with Alberto Fernandez in October, pending gestures of brotherhood and goodwill from the new Argentine administration. In addition to the exports of soybeans and meat, and the millions of yuan to pay the debt with the IMF and alleviate fiscal burdens, China had important investments in Argentina whose fate is now unclear. Some dams in Patagonia that, according to statements by Alberto Fernandez, involved an investment of around $500 million. This pause in relations with China is added to the refusal to join the BRICS that they've already made official. That is, they also closed the doors to the new development bank themselves. And all this in exchange for freedom? I have a question for you who are watching this video. Should trade relations be specifically focused on the progress and economic benefit that it represents for each country instead of being governed by political and economic ideologies? For now, we have to wait for the next decisions that Milei makes regarding his very reluctant position towards China. You'll have to think about it very calmly, because the Asian giant has a great influence on the Argentine economy. Now, if you liked the video, I invite you to subscribe and leave your like for more videos like this. We'll see you next time.